Hello, and welcome to the Acquionetics Quick Start Guide. In this video, we'll be covering how to scan a website or web application for vulnerabilities, analyze the scan results, and create a report. To start a scan with Acquionetics, first we need to create a target. To create a new target, simply provide the URL or IP address of the target to be scanned. Once a target is created, we can adjust any settings associated with that target. Most web applications have restricted areas which require user login and often need to be scanned too. For simple web applications, you can choose to automatically log into the site. In this case, Acquionetics will automatically try to detect the login form and any logout links. For more complex web applications, you will need to create a login sequence. A login sequence is a series of steps which Acquionetics will replay in order to log in and maintain an authenticated session. You will first need to browse to the login page of the site, enter your credentials, and log into the restricted area. You can replay the login actions to make sure that the steps you have recorded are correct. The scanner will make use of the same login credentials during the scan. Click Next when ready. You will now need to define any restrictions. Restrictions are buttons or hyperlinks which should not be followed during the scan, including logout links or any other functionality which we do not want the scanner to click on. In this case, we can go ahead and select the logout link, since we do not want Acquionetics to log itself out during the scan. The login sequence wizard will intercept HTTP request and will ask to confirm the action to be restricted. Wildcards can also be used for session identifiers, CSRF tokens, nonces, or other one-time tokens. Choose to restrict the request and click Next. Acquionetics requires a valid session in order to scan the restricted area. Because of this, Acquionetics needs a way to identify if the session being used is still valid. The login sequence recorder will try to auto-detect the session pattern for you. This is used by the scanner to validate the session during a scan. When a pattern is successfully detected, you can click the OK button. Click Finish when ready. This will open a prompt to save the newly created login sequence. Once the login sequence is saved, you can now select it inside of the target configuration. Once you are done configuring the target, click Save to save your settings and Scan to begin the scan. We can choose the type of scan we want to run. We can choose to generate a report after the scan completes. For this demonstration, we'll select an affected items report. Finally, we can either choose to scan this target now, at a later date, or even on a recurring schedule. We'll run this scan now. The scan will start instantly, and Acquionetics will proceed to crawling the site, identifying all the pages, forms, and inputs. Acquionetics will then scan the pages and inputs detected for vulnerabilities. You can review the progress of the scan from the Scan Stats panel. The scan progress will be updated in real time. Clicking on the Vulnerabilities tab will display the vulnerabilities as they are being detected. You can start reviewing these vulnerabilities while Acquionetics completes the scan. Vulnerabilities detected are given a classification ranging from high to informational to indicate the severity of the vulnerability. Clicking on a cross-site scripting vulnerability shows us the dynamics of the test performed to discover the flaw, including the HTTP headers exchanged during the test, as well as additional attack details and payload used. Acquionetics also provides additional vulnerability details, remediation advice, and additional web references for each vulnerability. Acquionetics allows us to view and manage all vulnerabilities from a single interface. We will start with the dashboard, which provides us with a bird's eye view of all vulnerabilities detected. We can drill down into individual vulnerabilities by filtering which vulnerabilities we're interested in looking at. Apart from viewing details for specific vulnerabilities, we can also mark a vulnerability as fixed, export it to an issue tracker for the development team to fix, or even export a web application virtual patch for the operations team to mitigate the vulnerability in production until a fix is available. The scan we started earlier is now complete and has automatically generated the report we selected. In addition to generating reports for individual scans, we can also generate reports for a target or on all the vulnerabilities identified by Acunetics on all the configured targets. That brings us to the end of this quick start guide. Remember that more help is available at www.acunetics.com/support. Our support team are also available to answer your queries and can be reached at support@acunetics.com.
各位与会者，大家好，我是新永资讯的 Nancy， 欢迎大家参与2021 Acunetics 线上研讨会。很荣幸邀请到原创的专家书院、万以及艾丽。待会会先看一段 Invity 公司介绍的小短片，接下来才会进入今天的重头戏——主题演讲以及 Acunetics 核心技术，最后进行产品 demo 以及 Q&A 时间。最后散会时，请别急着离开，我们会放上回馈问卷的 QR code， 只要填写回馈问卷，就能得到 Seven 200元礼券。再到新永资讯有限公司脸书粉丝专页按赞，就能得到加码小礼哦。那接下来让我们看一下 Invity 的公司介绍。
As a security professional, you have the huge responsibility of protecting your organization against a never-ending stream of web app security threats, all without nearly enough resources. Invicti can help. Embrace automation with our industry-leading web application security solutions, Acunetics and NetSparker. They are easy to use, have the highest accuracy, integrate with native developer workflows, and seamlessly scale with your business. Everything a security pro needs.
Ready.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you all for having us here. I'm just going to share my screen before I start. Can you all see my screen? Okay. So yeah, thank you all for having us here. The main reason or the main topic for this session will be to discuss 5 reasons why web security is important to avoid cyber attacks. So first, I want to touch a bit about what Invicti is. A short video that was presented by Sujana at the beginning. We'll discuss the topic of 5 reasons why web application security is important to avoid ransomware. We'll also present you all with the Acunetics business benefits. We have our solutions engineer here, Mr. Ali Marani, who's gonna give us also a quick demo of our tool. And at the end of the session, we'll open it up for questions and answers. So these are the webinar's panelists today. As mentioned before, my name is Juan. I'm the channel account executive for APAC. Ali here, our solutions engineer, and Suyan, all the mastermind behind all this webinars, and she is our senior partner account manager for APAC. So before I jump into the topic of the 5 reasons why security is important to avoid cyber attacks, I just wanted to introduce some fun facts and stats and figures. Something like, were you aware that there was a malicious, or there is a malicious hacker attack every 39 seconds? Do you also know that cybercrime is more profitable than the illegal drug trade? 75% of black hat hackers have said that traditional firewall and antivirus is irrelevant or obsolete. And there's also a study that states that in this year, there will be over 3.5 million cybersecurity jobs opening. Last year with COVID, we can call it the year of ransomware. Most of the news and the reports around ransomware attacks were based on trends, and we expect the situation to keep getting worse. Despite the fact that many organizations are aware of this situation, concentrating efforts on protecting themselves against ransomware usually has shifted their budgets away from web security. Unfortunately for them, this means that they're actually making their IT systems less secure. Let's jump into the topic straight away, and let's present you the 5 reasons why taking care of your web security is very important to avoid ransomware. The reason number 1 is that ransomware is a result of attack escalation. We have to define ransomware not as the attack itself, but as the result of the attack. In times of COVID, if we were to compare the effect of ransomware to an illness, ransomware software would represent a virus or a bacteria. Once that virus or bacteria gets into the body of the host, it is able to multiply and infect the entire system. Often with fatal results, we all know. It is the same with ransomware. Once it enters the system, it may be impossible to stop. However, just like bacteria or a virus does not simply fly from one host to another, neither does ransomware. It must somehow be introduced into the system, and the most effective measure or defense are at this stage, aim to prevent ransomware from entering the system in the first place. Yet again, just like bacteria and viruses, ransomware may be delivered using different paths. For example, a bacteria or a virus may spread by touch or by saliva droplets. Similarly, ransomware may just as easily be delivered by phishing and social engineering, or by exploiting vulnerabilities in the system. Now, nowadays, most such vulnerabilities are web vulnerabilities. Conclusion number 1. To protect from ransomware, you must completely focus on protecting yourself against the attacks that can be used to deliver ransomware to your systems. Once ransomware is in your system, it is too late. Reason number 2, web attacks are used to spread ransomware. As mentioned before, phishing and social engineering are believed to be the most common ways to deliver ransomware. However, phishing is often empowered by common web vulnerabilities such as cross-site scripting. Such vulnerabilities allow attackers to use renowned domain names, for example, your business name, to deliver attacks to your employees and others. Just imagine your web application has a cross-site scripting vulnerability. This will allow the attacker to send your employees a URL with your domain name, for example. However, upon visiting this domain, your employees will be automatically redirected to a malicious download location and a download ransomware installer. Let's be realistic. Do you think that your employees won't fall for such a trick? Even worse, the attacker may use your vulnerable web application to attack your business partners, your customers, and even the general public, exposing your system weaknesses and harming your reputation irreparably. If you want to avoid this, you must make sure that none of your systems that use your domain names have such cross-site scripting vulnerabilities, right? Conclusion number 2. Your web vulnerabilities may enable phishing attacks against your own organization, your partners, clients, or even the general public. This, as we all know, may cause irreparable harm to your reputation and business. Reason number 3, which is the one I like the most, is that moving to the cloud means that more criminals are aiming for the cloud. And this is a trend the past 2 years, which has been especially accelerated by COVID. As mentioned in reason number 1, ransomware may be delivered to the target system using different methods, very often taking advantage of web vulnerabilities, right? A while ago, most vulnerabilities would exist only on premises systems. This would be network vulnerabilities, for example, resulting from out-of-date software or misconfiguration of local networks. Now, with this new trend of businesses moving to the cloud, on-premises networks are losing even more ground. Such on-premises networks are being replaced by the cloud, and the cloud is completely based on web technologies. Therefore, the move to the cloud is associated with the growing importance of web vulnerabilities. Vulnerabilities that used to perhaps affect in the past marketing websites now may affect business critical systems and business critical data. The creators of ransomware also stay ahead of times. We all know they never rest. They are aware that this is no longer enough for a malicious encryptor to crawl through a local network and infect local desktops and servers. They are aware that more and more potential victims use thin clients or browsers and access data that is being stored in the cloud. Therefore, they realize that they must take advantage of more and more web/cloud vulnerabilities to ensure the ransomware software is the most effective. Conclusion number 3. Most organizations either already use the cloud or are moving to it. Efforts on network security alone is not enough, and web security needs to add up to the security tools of an organization. Reason number 4, organizations do not report attack details. And this one is particularly important because it is very difficult to know how to defend your business against ransomware, because other organizations have fallen victim to ransomware, but they do not share their experiences. They simply inform the public that they have been the victim of ransomware attack, but nothing else. We would say that such behavior is understandable. First of all, because attacked organizations may be unable to fix their security weaknesses immediately, and that's understandable. Second of all, organizations are afraid to share attack vector details so that they don't make themselves more open to attacks. And third of all, many organizations wrongly believe that admitting their mistakes may hurt their reputation. Unfortunately, this behavior slows down the development of efficient protection methods in the cybersecurity world and has overall an impact on IT security. This situation could be compared to a country that, let's say, has been affected by a deadly virus, and it would not share any details about it just for political reasons. Conclusion number 4, not sharing the details of attack vectors used to deliver ransomware to victim systems makes it more difficult for other businesses to avoid ransomware. Last but not least, media focuses on the problem, not the solution. And this is a relevant one because what makes the situation even worse, in our opinion, is that in those rare cases when attack details are known, most media decide not to mention any such details. This is true in the case of all security breaches, for example. Instead, the media focuses on popular topics such as the impact on the business from the ransomware attack, or how much money did the organization had to pay to recover their data. For this reason, number 5, let's take 2 cases worldwide known. The first one is the Capital One data breach from 2019 that was caused by a server-side request forgery. But to find some information about this attack, you'll have to go and dig very deep in search engines, as most media sources did not bother to mention this crucial information. On the other hand, in the light of media and business behavior, that leads to ransomware being more of a problem for businesses everywhere. It is a pleasant surprise to see there are rare major enterprises to follow the best possible practices in cybersecurity. For this example, there is no better example than the Cloudflare attack, for example. When in 2019, Cloudflare experienced a major outage caused by human error and the use of a web application firewall, they decided to describe the entire incident using an impressive level of detail, and this should be a regular practice. Conclusion number 5, we heartily recommend that the media share known attack details. If we share the information and learn about the first steps of a ransomware attack, we will all have a better chance to protect ourselves against such attacks in the future. After presenting all these 5 reasons, let's talk about the business benefits of Akinetics and how encrypted security plays a crucial role in securing web applications around the world nowadays. Akinetics is a dynamic application security testing scanning engine that has over 15 years of experience and is easy to use, it is fully automated, and allows teams around the world to secure their websites, their web applications, and their APIs. It is a powerful solution, and it allows to perform black box scanning, gray box scanning, client-side scanning, and out-of-band web application scanning. There are 3 key pillars or key business benefits offered in our Akinetics platform. The all-in-one capabilities, where easily you can manage your web and network vulnerabilities and web malware in the same interface. And as you can see, Akinetics is now reporting in over 7,000 web known vulnerabilities and constantly updating their databases with our security research team. We do also offer support on network scanning capabilities, detecting over 50,000 network scanning vulnerabilities with other integration with OpenPass. Within Akinetics, we will get actionable, fast results. With our technologies, we will get up to 80% of vulnerabilities identified in the first 20% of the scan, thanks to the unique scanning algorithms and the fastest scanning engine in the industry. And the third key pillar is accuracy. Within Akinetics, you will enjoy the lowest false positive rate in the industry. And not only that, whenever we're not sure about the existence of a vulnerability, we will also provide a level of confidence based on our expertise for teams to focus and put all their resources on known vulnerabilities. So how does Akinetics work? We operate under the find, fix, and prevent mantra. Finding with our scanners, we help you find all vulnerabilities, all network vulnerabilities, and all web malware. Fixing, we will get your team with detailed reports for developers. We'll help you out tracking progress internally and externally of those vulnerabilities. And we will help you confirm resolution from those vulnerabilities all within the same platform. On the prevention side of things, we can easily integrate into the SDLC. We can export WAF rules, and we can prevent vulnerabilities from ever making it to production. Some other key technologies in Akinetics Premium are the deep scan technology, smart scan technology, retrofacing pages already scanned to increase the speed of the scan, our AccuSensor technology or IS component of Acunetics, helping you scan or give you line of code visibility whenever a vulnerability is found for certain languages. AccuMonitor as the technology behind Acunetics, performing all the crawling of the websites. Network scanning integration with OpenVAS, as mentioned before. Malware detection, incremental scanning, proof of exploit for the false positive level reduction, user-friendly interface, and a range of other features that my colleague Ali will present to you all in just a matter of seconds. Just to round up this business benefits of Acunetics Premium, or Acunetics in general, the way we like to define it is as Acunetics fast, accurate, and easy to use. Not saying more, thank you very much for your time, and I'll pass it on to my colleague Ali Marwani, who's going to give us a complete demo of Acunetics. Thank you.
Thank you, Suyan. Thank you, Juan. Hello, everybody, and good evening, and thank you for attending the demo. Please let me know if you're able to see my screen. Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes, Ali.
Okay, thank you so much. So before I start the demo or I start deep diving with the features and the options that we have in Acunetics, please, I would like to mention that when we're talking about Acunetics, we're talking about a scanning engine or a DAS solution that has been scanning web assets such as websites, applications, and API endpoints for the last 15 years. So it's an accumulation of hard work. So we're talking about a robust and mature DAS solution with more than 7,000 security checks. So in today's demo, we will cover these points, discovering the assets that you have, detecting vulnerabilities, addressing vulnerabilities, and the integration with SDLC and CI/CD. So before talking about the features, of course, each one of you is interested to know more about the current state of the organization and the web assets that they have. So from the dashboards here, you'd be able to detect or to know the current security posture of your web assets by seeing the number of vulnerabilities that you have, that they were collected throughout the scans. Also, these vulnerabilities are divided or categorized based on severity and based on business criticality. So from the pie charts here, you'd be able to know that, okay, I have 204 high severity vulnerabilities, 212 are normal, and 2 are of critical labeling. In addition to that, you'd be able to find additional information such as the total scans conducted, the open vulnerabilities that have not been tackled or addressed yet, and the number of targets or the web assets that are configured in the solution. And in addition to that, you'd be able also to benefit from other charts and other widgets and information such as the categorization of each security check and the number of vulnerabilities under this security check. So all these information are collected based on scans, and those scans are executed to target and to send payloads to websites, web assets, web applications, and API endpoints. So the first step is to discover what we have under the organization. So from the discovery tool, you will get a list of the prospect URLs and the prospect web assets that you might have under your organization. So this list is populated by several methods. We use, for example, the second level domains of the targets configured inside Acuinetics. We also use the emails that you use for logging into the solution. We also use, for example, the SSL certificates installed on your web assets. So from here, you'll find a list. So any variable, any value that you see that it is under your organization, you can create it as a target. From here, you can choose it, you can create it as a web asset. So, and everything that is not related to your organization, you can just exclude it or delete it. Now, what is the benefit from this page? So, for example, sometimes your marketing teams, they might create a page, a web page for some specific purpose, for a specific timeline. And then after that, they just forget it online. So from here, the solution will collect such web pages and you'll be able to exclude them or include them as web targets. So in addition to that, you can also edit the methods that we use or the technologies that we use in order to populate this list by going to the settings. And from here, you can include which technologies and methods you want. So this is the discovery tool. After that, we will also create targets or other naming web assets in order to launch and execute vulnerability scanning. So from the targets in here, simple, straightforward, you click on the add targets, you choose or you add the target address, if it's an IP or a domain name, you add a description, and also from here you add this target to a group. Groups is a feature in Acuinetics where you can collect a group of targets and put them under one umbrella. So maybe you can create groups based on the business functionality or maybe on the technology that you are using for your web applications or web assets, or maybe on the type of the web asset. If you want to group all the APIs, if you want to group all the web applications under one umbrella. Creating the groups, you click on target groups, and then you add a group, you name it, and you add the description. So after creating a target, okay, now we'll start executing or we'll launch a scan to one of the targets. Executing a scan. So now it's the phase of detecting vulnerabilities. We talked about the discovery. Now we want to start detecting vulnerabilities. So we go to scans. Click on new scan from here. You choose any of the targets that you have, for example, this one. And then you'll get redirected to the target information and the scan information. From here, you set the values in order to optimize or to enhance or to customize and tailor the scan as per your needs. So the description, the business criticality, you have the scan speed, you can throttle down or you can increase the number of concurrent requests from here. You can use and benefit from the site login or the pre-recorded login sequence, where some of your web assets might require a more complex steps in order to log in. Let's say that you have 2 pages that you have to jump from the first page to the second page to log in, or you have some complex values that you have insert. So from here, you can record this sequence by clicking on new, or you can edit an existing sequence. You just now click or apply the steps. So from here, for example, I have to click on here. As you can see here now, the right panel is populated with the steps. So in order to verify and to make sure that these are the correct steps. So you add username, the password, and you click on login. Now, to make sure or to verify that the automation is working fine, just click on play, and then you will watch the sequence of the steps. Once all is done, you click on finish, and it will be added as a sequence, pre-recorded login sequence. There's also the business logic recorder, which is the same concept of the log and sequence, where you can record complex steps. But this is usually used, for example, if you have a questionnaire, if you have an online survey, if you have your complaint, filing a complaint page. So from here you can record all the steps. In this way, you will benefit, or you will make sure that you will have a wider coverage of the scan. Also, we have other features, a lot of values that you can benefit from. For example, the import files, and this is usually used for API endpoints. So endpoints or APIs, you might have hundreds of URLs, hundreds of endpoints that you want to crawl, and you want to make sure that the scan will not miss any of these endpoints. So instead of adding them manually, you can, if you use, for example, an API platform such as Postman or Swagger, or if you use, for example, a proxy client such as Fiddler, you can simply just upload the file from here and choose the Postman file or the Fiddler session archives file. And by this, you will make sure that you will have a full coverage to your API endpoints. Then you have the HTTP authentication, the header authentication. Also, in your web asset, you might have some pages that require an HTTP authentication, so you can add the credentials from here, or also in order to scan your APIs, you add the HTTP authentication in here. And also we have more and more features that you can benefit from. So we've set the scan, we've optimized, we fine-tuned, and we tailor the scan as per our needs. Now we need to launch a scan, and we need to start sending payloads to a target. So click on scan from here. You'll get redirected to a list of scans. For example, I'll go to this one. And this is a live updated page. And this page is on the fly. As long as the scan is running, the information in this page is updated. And once the scan is done, you will get the final results of the scan from this page. So in this page, you'll be able to see the current web asset posture. It's the same as the dashboard. It will give you, but this is a target-centric or target-oriented page. It will give you the target's security posture. So for example, we have, it's a high threat level. You will also check the activities, the overall progress, or what is currently going. So in case there's a component missing, there is an issue with the authentication, it will also show you the logs. You have other information such as the scan duration, the number of requests, and the latest alerts. So once the scan is done, okay, now we'll jump into vulnerabilities. From this tab, you'd be able to see the vulnerabilities detected by the scan. And also you can find additional information for these vulnerabilities. Let's say, for example, I'll take the SQL injection, this one. So from the right panel, you'd find additional information such as the attack details. And I will get to the proof of exploit later because this is the most important part. You'll also have vulnerability description, additional description. You'll be able also to see the HTTP request and the HTTP response, which is very beneficial for cross-site scripting. Also, I will show you another example, and also additional external references, classifications, and detailed information. But what is the most important for us is the proof of exploit. As you can see here, that in the proof of exploit, when you see a proof of exploit, and when you see the confidence level is 100%, then there is no way for this vulnerability to be a false positive, because you have the detail, you have the query that was executed that made this exploitation, and you will have also the line code that the exploitation or that we benefit from or we exploited to make this payload. But this line code and this extra information is achieved by an additional component, which is the AccuSensor. Okay. AccuSensor is a server-side component. We install it on the server side that will extend the capabilities of the DAS solution and make the DAS solution as an IaaS solution, which is an interactive application security testing. This is an add-on, okay, an extra, an additional component that you can add it on this on the server side. And also it will promise you, or it will make sure that you will have a wider crawling or a wider range of crawling into your web assets. So of course, I'll get another example. Let's say this cross-site scripting. The confidence is 100%. As you can see here, you have also the attack details. What was the payload used, or the post that was used. Also from the request, you can see the request in here and the response. You will find the HTML snippet where all this cross-site scripting took place. So this is how you can see additional details about the vulnerabilities. Now it's time to address those vulnerabilities. So as a first step, for example, you need to send a report for your dev team in order with a list of all the vulnerabilities, the detailed information, etc. So from the generate reports in here, you can benefit from the standard reports, and you can also benefit from the compliance reports based on compliance standards such as OWASP, ISO, PCI, and etc. So let's say I'll take the OWASP Top 10 2017 from here. This is the list of all the reports that I've already generated. Okay, let's say let's take this one for example. So this is a report. So it's the compliance report where you can see the number of reports that are grouped based on the scan checks. Also, you can see much more details about each vulnerability, and also you will have the details of all the recommendations for remediation. So this is how you create reports and send them to the dev team. Now, of course, you might also have a question that, let's say I want to schedule or I want to export reports on the fly automatically after the scan is done, instead of doing all these manually. The same steps. You go to scan, new scan, you click any of the targets. Okay, and once you finish everything, you click on scan, and here you will get a pop-up. Okay, from the pop-up, you choose the scan profile and the report that you want to export manually automatically after the scan is done. And for the scan profile, we'll talk about it later, because it's a very useful tool where you can create your own scan checks. Okay, and also you can schedule the scan in here if on the fly directly. Once you click on scan, if you want to schedule it as a future scan to run once on a specific time, or if you want to make the scan as a recurrent scan that runs every time on a specific date and time. So now let's go back to the scan, this one. Okay, so these are the vulnerabilities. So as I mentioned, the first step of addressing the vulnerabilities is sending the report for the dev team. Now, to be preemptive, or let's say, we all know that during the remediation process or at the addressing process of the dev team for vulnerabilities, it might take some time. So to protect ourselves and to protect your web assets from an attack that might exploit one of these vulnerabilities, we can simply patch our firewalls, our WAFs, by exporting from here, okay? By exporting WAF rules, Citrix, F5, Fortinet, and Imperva, or we have the out-of-box automatic integration with AWS, where it will directly send the rules and will patch the AWS WAF web ACLs. So this integration, out-of-box integration, can be achieved from here by creating an integration. Very easy, straightforward. You just add the information that you can collect easily from AWS, such as the access key, secret key, and what is the scope, and then you test the connection and you save it. So now I'll go to the vulnerabilities list. From this vulnerabilities list, you can group all vulnerabilities based on target. You can filter, for example, based on the vulnerability type, the severity, etc. And there are a lot of features and options that you can benefit from, such as, I'll go to, for example, I'll just filter by the target, which is the target that I'm working on right now. So now we can take the addressing phase to the next level. So we've sent the report to the dev team, and let's say that you use any issue tracking system. Instead of manually adding all these vulnerabilities to the issue tracking system, why not doing an integration and sending all these vulnerabilities directly to the issue tracking system, such as Jira, for example? So from here, just simply choose the vulnerabilities that you want and click on send to issue tracking system. So once you send to the issue tracking system, an issue ID from Jira will be created and you can see it from here. So it's just an indicator that this issue has been sent to the issue tracking system. And we have out-of-box integration for Jira, for Azure Boards, DevOps, we have for GitLab, GitHub, Mantis, out-of-box integrations, which you can access from here, the issue trackers. These are the integrations that are already configured. If you want to add a new integration from here, just label the integration. But the most important thing is to choose the platform. Once you choose the platform, you will be asked by the authentication URL and all the needed details that you can collect from these issue tracking systems. So this is, we took Akunetics to the next level of addressing, which is integration with issue tracking system. So why also not taking it to the maximum? Let's say that the security check process or the vulnerability scanning process is needed to be integrated in the pipeline, in the CI/CD process. Okay, so when running a build process, or you want to build your web asset, so you want to integrate the security check during this phase, and you want to fail, for example, a building process if, let's say, a critical vulnerability was detected. Okay, you just want to fail this building process. And why? Because detecting vulnerabilities before the production phase will eliminate time consumption practices, such as, okay, you build, you add everything in the pipeline, then you have the application on production server, and then after that you start detecting vulnerabilities. So all these integrations can be achieved by our out-of-box Jenkins plugin that you can install on Jenkins. So once you run a build on Jenkins, you can fail it based on several criteria that you set. So also you might ask me, okay, I use internal systems, CI/CD and issue tracking systems that are not available in your out of the box integration. What shall we do? We have our API. You can benefit from the API to write scripts to do the integration for whatever internal system that you have. So again, I'll go to the list of vulnerabilities from here. Let's say that, okay, you have vulnerabilities that has been addressed and you want to set them as fixed, okay? You just choose them from here, you mark them as fixed, you can also mark them as ignored, false positive, open, etc. Okay, and then you can retest them again. So a test will be, a vulnerability scanning will be executed targeting only these vulnerabilities instead of have a full scanning. So it will just target these vulnerabilities. So we talked about the integration with SDLC also, and the CI/CD integration. Another feature that we have is, okay, Iconetics is a solution. A lot of users might log into this solution and might use specific features and options in this solution. So why not setting a group of permissions to a specific number of users instead of having all the users having all permissions and access to this application? So from the users in here, you'd be able to create a new user, and you can add this user to a role. A role is a set of permissions and privileges. So you have platform administrator, technical tester, and auditor. So by this way, you'd be able to segregate the group of users and the options and the features that they can use inside Akunetics Premium. In addition to that, you can also exclude, or you can create scanning profiles, which we mentioned at the beginning of this demo. A scanning profile is a group of checks that you can that are used to execute or to achieve the vulnerability scanning. We have a predefined checks, which is the full scan, new web vulnerabilities, high risk, etc. And you can create your own scan checks. So let's say, for example, that you want to create a scan check that only targets everything related to SQL injection. Okay, you can just add or search for the keyword in here, and then you will have a list of all the SQL injection checklists, scan checks. You can check them all, and then you can name the profile and save it. Let's say that you want a profile that targets only everything related to cross-site scripting. You can also search from here for everything related to cross-site scripting. And also this page is useful that you'd be able to know what are the types of checks that we use in Akunetics. So you'll have a deeper view of what we actually achieving when we run a vulnerability scanning job. So this is in general, we talked about the main features that we have in Akunetics Premium. So thank you so much. If you have any questions, please let me know. Juan, Suyan, all yours.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ali. Thank you very much, and Juan as well. Just to want to say that thank you for everyone in your participation and attention so far. We want to now run the Q&A session. I haven't seen questions in the chat box, so please, everyone, you can ask any question in Chinese, in English, are welcome. Before the webinar, we have actually collected a couple of questions from the customers who fill out the survey. And I think these questions, some of them are quite common. So I want to just to share them with everyone. For example, the question comes from actually an existing Akunetics customer, and the customer is asking, I often encounter some false positives, and I'd like to know how to reduce false positives. Any third-party tool does the Invicti team recommend and help me to improve?
Okay, so as I mentioned in the beginning of my demo that Acuinetics is an experience tool. So it has been 15 years and it required a lot of research from our security researchers. So, and also customer feedback is really of great help and benefit for us. So in case you find any potential false positive, please feel free to contact us and contact our support team, so they would also do an additional research in order to add it to our technology at the back end of the solution, because it's an ongoing process to update and to excel with the solution throughout the years. Now, also sometimes false positives are case oriented. It might be related to a configuration or a misconfiguration, or maybe a missing configuration, or the configuration in this page. Let me show you something. So if we go here, choose any.
Shall I stop sharing, Ali?
Yes, please. Let me.
There you go.
Thank you. Okay. So it might be a configuration and the missing configuration in this page. Something needs optimization, fine tuning, etc. So also we need to look into why these false positives were happening. In addition to that, as I mentioned, we have the AccuSensor component, which tries as much as possible to eliminate the false positives and to have a wider crawling and capabilities. Now, for a third party, well, I would suggest to use Postman or Fiddler, so you can take these requests and just replay them using these third-party applications, just to make sure that are they really false positives or not. Thank you.
Thank you, Ali. I hope this has answered the customer's question. Again, I know this customer is on the call today as well, so you don't need to worry. We will reach out to you with a partner to make sure that we need another session to further assess your use case. All right. I've got a second question. Ali, are you going to add something else?
No, thank you. If the second question requires sharing my screen, I will let you know.
No problem.
Okay.
So the second question is regarding how to schedule the scans. And customers asking if I want to schedule daily scans and create new scans for a specific time of the day, will this cause any conflict or issue?
Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. So scheduling a scan in Acuinetics is easy and straightforward. You can either schedule the scan prior to executing the scan or whilst creating a scan job. So from here, if we go to a new scan, choose a target. So when you fill all the needed values and information in here and you click on scan, you'll get a pop-up. From this pop-up, you'll be able to select, okay, is it an instant scan, which means that it will be executed the moment I press on this create scan button, or if you want to just schedule the scan once for a future date, so you choose the date from here. Also, if it's time sensitive, you can choose a specific timing, or you can choose a recurrent scan, which means that it will run recurrently. Also, you choose the starting date, and you can choose the recurrence frequency in here, if it's daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, or yearly. Now, this is one of the ways. Also, you can exclude hours from scanning. Also, this is one of the other ways. So, for example, you want just to create or you want the scans to be executed only within this time range, only on Wednesday from 12 a.m. till 4 a.m. only. So also this is another way that which you can control your scanning timings. Now, causing any issues, it's a scan, so it will not cause any issues. But for example, if you are running a scan during the day on a production setup, we prefer not to do this, not to have this practice, running a scan at the middle of the day on a production online setup. So that's the only recommendation from my side. Thank you.
Thank you, Ali, again.
Yeah.
Juan, anybody would like to add more to the question? Okay. So I want to just share another question from our customer who's very interested in Akinetics' this menu tool functionality. Ali, could you show a bit more of how we can help them to verify some vulnerabilities? For example, the common vulnerabilities, please show an example demo.
Okay, so Akinetics, well, Akinetics is a dynamic application security testing. It's not a SaaS, it's not a static application security testing. And that's why everything is automated. The scan runs automatically. We have, as I mentioned, more than 7,000 scan checks that runs in the background whilst executing this scanning vulnerability job. So manual scanning is it's not something that is provided in the DAS solution. So if you can be more precise, I would also maybe be able to answer you or these.
I'm not sure the customer who asked the question is on the call.
Yeah.
Does a gentleman, a lady mind adding a bit more of the use case? Or perhaps the engineer from the NFI side could add a little bit more on this question, please.
Yes, please.
Jason，
Hello，
哎，
有听到声音吗？
哎，可以听得到，请讲。
我们的问题是说，你们有提供一个 menu tool， 那这个 menu tool 如何来帮我们验证一些我们有疑问的弱点？就是比如说 XSS 的弱点的时候，我们可以用这个工具怎么来做验证，或者是 SQL injection 的时候，可以 demo 一下这个怎么操作那个软体吗？
在 menu testing 的部分，
对，你们有一个 menu tool 的工具吗？那这个工具是你们是说可以用来做 PT 的一些测试，那所以我们想要了解一下，说这个工具它要怎么样做操作。
刚才阿丽有讲到，其实我们是一个全自动化的工具。如果说就您刚才的问题，你是想具体了解，当出现这些 common vulnerability 的时候，有没有可能去手动的去检测，是吗？
对，应该说这个软体是你们公司开发出来的。那它既然提供在网络上，那是不是有一些操作的手册或什么的，可以提供我们去查看这样？
是这样的，在我们 Akinetics 的官网，您登录到 akinetics.com， 然后在 support 的下面，你可以查到vulnerability 的所有的这个 database， 也就是对每一个漏洞的这个标记以及描述都有详细的解释。如果您刚才讲到这个比如说 这个 cross-scripting vulnerability 啊，还有一些 SQL injection 呐，如果说您对看完这些解释之后还有疑问的话， 希望你可以能直接联系到我们，可以吗？
哦，好吧，谢谢。
好的，谢谢。Ali, I think I have answered the question.
Okay, okay.
And
Thank you.
basically, the customer was wondering where to find more descriptions and of these common vulnerabilities. So I direct the lady to the website.
Okay.
And if there's more explanation needed, then we would definitely help and schedule a separate session.
Okay. Okay, great.
OK， 请问大家还有更多的问题吗？
I can see there's a question around web shells from Luke.
So we have a question from Jason asking, would like to know more about detect web shells.
The web shells, you mean the shell scripts? Or adding scripts for a scan?
Jason, 可以再细化一下您的问题吗？
我也有听到吗？
哎，可以听到，请讲。
就是我们想要了解，就是说它可不可以侦测，现在很常见会从 WebShell 会攻击这样，那我想说啊，因为只能侦测到 WebShell 有含 WebShell 的漏洞吗？就是说如果，因为它可能会从某一个漏洞上传某一个程式，那这个漏洞会变成一个 WebShell， 那这个Arduino 能不能侦测到这个漏洞，然后去防止 WebShell 被上传这样子？大概我的问题是这样。
你的 WebShell 是你的那个 server 对吗？
对，就是 Web 的 application 的部分。
If I understand the gentleman's questions correctly, he wants to understand if there's no way that we can, because typically they can say that there's vulnerability coming from or potential attacks coming from their web shells, but they want to know how they can further check the vulnerabilities and how the attacks happened.
I can answer that question.
Please, Juan.
Yeah.
Sure. So let's start from the assumption that we all have basic knowledge of web shells and how easy it is to code them as right. Unfortunately, as well, many servers are set up in such a way that they can have a simple script, and in that simple script we can get significant damage from them, right? And this also means that there are many thousands of publicly available web shells out there, right? Now, some web shells are also very sophisticated and they're almost impossible to detect, even with behavioral analysis. However, we have a complete documentation around web shells that we can send over after this. It is kind of a long course around web shells. And since Akinetics is a vulnerability scanner that tests websites and web applications for thousands of vulnerabilities, including code execution and arbitrary file upload vulnerabilities, it can find entry points that could allow attackers to upload web shells, for example. And additional to that, when using AcuSensor technology, since the sensor is deployed inside the web application, the scanner can retrieve a list of files on the server backend, meaning that the scanner can detect web shells and other malicious scripts, even if they are buried deep within directories. Yet again, we highly suggest all the attendants of this meeting to go through that web shell. I don't know if to call it a course, but it's one of our security blogs, which is segmented in 5 parts, and that's going to give you all a better understanding on how Acunetics helps with web shell detection.
Jason， 我们会在会后给您发一个文档，然后会有详尽的这个web shell 的这个 vulnerability 的一些描述，然后以及一些常见的解决方式。Again， 如果您还有问题，我们当然欢迎继续双方讨论，好不好？We have got another question. I don't think I understand this, so I would need the engineer from NFI or distributor side to help explain this question.
请问有哪一位与会者有问题呢？都可以举手或开启麦克风与我们的原厂进行互动哦。还有人有问题吗？
美心，刚刚有一个客户问到一个，想问我们的扫描是否有写入 DB 或影响到网站功能。我对这个问题不是很理解，你们的工程师是不是可以翻译或者解释一下？
请问是哪一位与会者的问题呢？
来自于成大的问题。
对，
不好意思，还是私信。
我们的问题就是我们最近发现我们在用 Acunetics 扫描的时候，那有可能是那个受测的网站它的程式的写法的关系，那它有扫到 SQL injection 的问题，然后另外也有发现就是扫描的一些资料有移动到资料库里面去。所以想要问说，这样的状况是正常的吗？就是弱扫会影响到资料库，如果它是有像 SQL injection 的问题的话，那或者是有没有什么，就是它会不会危害到网站本身的功能？这样。
您是说漏洞本身已经影响到了你们的数据库，还是说在执行我们扫描的时候影响了？
对，执行你们扫描的时候影响到。
对。你们已经发现已经影响，还是说
已经有影响了？最近发现有一个案例是有影响到的。
我会再问一遍这个问题啊，但是我们目前是没有碰到，所以不知道是什么原因，所以我会再把这个原始问题就是反馈给我们的这个阿里。I've got just a private message from the customer asking, will perform Acunetics scan will impact on their database?
Okay, so that's a good question, because we get this question a lot, to be honest. So let me answer honestly. Where for Acunetics or for scanning vulnerabilities, we usually prefer to execute the scan jobs on a testing environment, not on a production environment. It's not that Acunetics messes with the database. It's not that at all. We send payloads. We have security checks that we execute. But sometimes you might, for example, have a page that has a function or query that deletes records from the database. Okay, so if we send payloads and Acunetics was successfully capable from applying this exploitation or exploiting this vulnerability, this deleting query might execute. So that's why we always prefer executing or running the scans on the testing setup. However, you can do some workarounds by, for example, creating a scan profile that will exclude all MySQL injection checks, or exclude, for example, a page. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. Or when you run a profile, when you run a scan, for example, let's say this one, you can also exclude paths by adding regex, regular expressions in here. By excluding, for example, if you are pretty sure that you have this page with delete functionality in it, built inside it, you can just exclude it from the scan, in case you want to scan your production environment, not the testing environment. So that's it. But as a solution, it does not have any functionality or capability or tendency to delete or to mess with the database.
这位女士，我们有没有解答到您的问题，还是需要我给您复述一下？
大概了解，谢谢。
好的，好的，我大概给就是其他的听众复述一下，就是阿里的回答就是说，一般来说我们就是企业它都是在这个测试环境去使用 Akinetics 的扫描嘛。那么如果说在正式的环境，它确实是对这个 database 会有一些影响，所以的话，它提供了这个两种可能，就是一种是产生的可能性，就是说可能在你们的这个网站本身的功能里就包含了，比如说删除一些部分的记录，在这个操作执行后，这个有可能会影响到你们本身的database。那第二种就是说，如果想要避免这样的情况发生的话，那么呢，我们有一个这个排除路径的功能，是可以让你们在这个固定路径下，让这个 Akinetics 不要执行扫描，来降低这样的影响。Okay, we have another new question. I think this is relating to a specific vulnerability. Is XSE high to risk? And they have recently, the customer's been recently using a couple of tools to verify it. Seems not detect successfully. And he's wondering if we, Akinetics, would have had false positive at some point, and also isn't a way to detect this vulnerability either manually or automatically.
Okay, so I think I've answered a part of this question a while ago, that it's an ongoing process to enhance the labeling of false positives in our solutions. And as I mentioned, that in case you find that there's a potential high false positive, you can just contact our support team. They will look into it, because it might be something related to the configuration, and might not be something related to the scan itself or the security checks. Now, for high risks, if you can please, Soyan, just again tell me what is the question for the high risks.
It seems like this is this a type of vulnerability cannot be detected automatically and has to be verified manually.
Okay, so most probably this is a case-oriented thing, specifically for this target. So we need to look into it more. We have to debug it, or to track down what might be causing this type of not detecting these high vulnerabilities.
And this is a vulnerability can be detected automatically. It's
Yeah,
not something that needs to be tested manually.
Also, I want to add to that.
Yes. Yes, Juan.
Juan, go ahead.
I also want to add to that that it's very important that they have Acunetics running on the latest version, which is version 14, especially if they are running an on-premise license. And as Ali mentioned before, step one would be to contact support, who will help you investigate that. Step two, check the vulnerabilities link or webs we have in our website in order to confirm those vulnerabilities. And step three, there's also the ability for you to get more information about the vulnerability in CVS format, if I'm not mistaken, Ali, for you to have a manual verification process or service.
这位叫Kurt 的同事我稍微解释一下我们刚才同事的回答，就是说因为我们的这个在刚才在那个 demo 演示的环节，你应该看到在这个 confidence 的下面呢是有针对每个找到的这个漏洞的一个准确率叫 confidence。那这个准确率如果在显示100%的情况下，就是说我们可以保证这个漏洞100%存在，但是它有95%有80%的情况。那么如果说你觉得我们查出来的漏洞是这个误判，或者是其他软件查出来可能是误判我都希望你能直接联系我们的这个 support， 然后帮你看一下是不是比如说配置上有问题还是说一个具体就是这个什么样的漏洞是可能是有在很多情况下就是说是 SaaS 的工具都无法克服的这么一个难点。我这边收到一个这个朱立强应该是位先生给我发来的建议。对，谢谢您，谢谢您帮我做的总结，谢谢。今天我觉得我们的这个时间马上就快要结束了还有大概1分钟的时间如果大家没有任何问题的话呢我还是again 希望在会后如果说你们联想到一些我们其他没有解决的东西都希望你们可以直接联系我们的总代 NFI 还有我们的 support， 我们 support 的服务呢是5×24小时，那么以及还有这个我本人的联系方式呢，我会打在这个屏幕上。Again, thank you very much, everyone, for your participation, and I hope that you find this session helpful and useful. Any questions, again, please reach out to me directly or our local partners. And I hope to see you again. Thank you very much again. Goodbye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
再次感谢 Acunetics 带来精彩的内容，也感谢各位与会者的参与。最后，希望大家拿起手机，扫描荧幕上方的 QR code， 给予我们一些回馈。只要完整填写回馈问卷的与会者，都能得到一份200元的 Seven 礼券。你们的回馈是我们最大的动力。另外，到新永资讯有限公司脸书粉丝专页按赞，新永资讯会再赠送一份加码小礼。活动结束后，若有其他问题，欢迎拨打我们的电话或寄 mail， 会有专人为您服务。今天的活动到这边圆满结束，祝福大家有美好的一天哦。